Yeah, we are live now. Yeah, sure.
Fantastic. I think we're live on YouTube, so let's start, if you allow me.
Sure, let's go ahead.
So good afternoon, teachers. Welcome to Ideas That Matter, the series of webinars hosted by Shoolini University, Khosla Hills. Quick introduction to me. My name is Atul Khosla, and I am the founder and pro-vice chancellor of Shoolini University. As a quick background, I'm a BTech from IIT Kanpur, an MBA from Bajaj, Bombay, and then spent 25 years in the industry. 7 different countries, multinationals like McKinsey and Company. And my last job was the India CEO for Oliver Wyman, which is the 3rd largest consulting firm in the world. 7 years back in 2013, I decided to go become a teacher, and I'm a very proud teacher, just like all of you. And I think with that introduction, I have to tell you that it's my honor to be in front of all of you. I still get nervous in front of teachers, less with students. So excuse me if I'm a little nervous today. Honored to invite Vivek Atray, my very dear friend, advisor to Shoolini, visiting professor to Shoolini, and also ex-IAS officer and TEDx speaker, to be part of this wonderful webinar. So the format is going to be Vivek and I will be speaking, predominantly Vivek. I'll jut in as needed. And we'll try to play a couple of videos in between if you can sort out the technology. I'm having a little bit of a technology nightmare today. So if we can, we'll play a couple of videos on some of the work we're doing at Shoolini. But till then, over to you, Vivek. I'll also request you participants to please keep asking questions, comments, and we'll be happy and delighted to answer all of them. Vivek, over to you. Truly look forward to you hearing from you again.
Thank you, Atul. Thank you so much. And it's a pleasure to see so many teachers online for this webinar. And I believe it's a very good school at Yamunanagar, Springdales, where we are shooting and streaming today. It's a wonderful occasion for us to speak about some skills which we should have and which we should build up in this period, especially when we are in lockdown, but even later when we are not in lockdown. These are lifelong assets and skills which should be carried with us. So I'll speak mostly in English, and I know that most of you are confident speakers because you are teachers, and teachers are already very capable at speaking in class, speaking in front of a crowd of students. But sometimes we have to speak also on the stage. Sometimes we have to speak in public. Sometimes we have to speak to parents, or we have to speak at a meeting. So we'll focus on public speaking skills. But before that, I'm going to add some preliminary thoughts. And Atul Khosla, I will request him later in the piece to also add his thoughts. So the preliminary thoughts are that firstly, Shoolini University has started this great initiative of reaching out to schools through webinars, and I'm very happy to be a part of it. Atul Khosla and I have been speaking to various schools and their teachers and principals, and we have tried to lift the mood and enable teachers to feel more confident, more calm, more balanced, more capable of succeeding in the future. And that is something which I will endeavor to do here also. And we have been also focusing on various topics. This one is a beautiful topic on public speaking skills, very much required. And let me tell you that I am missing my visits to the Shoolini University campus. I go regularly because I am a visiting professor and advisor at Shoolini, and I'm based in Panchkula. After taking voluntary retirement from the IAS, and even before that, we were settled in our own home in a little toddler school campus in Panchkula in Sector 10. My wife is the principal of the toddler school. So it is a very good opportunity for me to talk to you from Panchkula, and the webinar is facilitated by Shoolini University. Atul Khosla and his team are in Solan in Shoolini University campus. You are in Yamunanagar. So technology is enabling us to come together like this. And perhaps when we are busy, when we are going back to our pre-lockdown days and school times, we may not really find time for such things often. So let us take it as a blessing now that we are able to do this. Also, the fact that you are under stress, as everybody is. So let me briefly speak on that. I also speak on how to combat fear, how to combat worries, how to combat all the difficulties that come in life. So just taking 2 minutes on that, I would like to say that each of us is human, and machines have not replaced teachers yet. We are human beings when we are teachers, and therefore we will have ups and downs. We will have fears and worries, just like anybody else. But how do we handle that? That is the big thing. So the prayer that we have to pray to God is not that please make our troubles go away. It is to make your shoulders broader to handle the troubles, to make you stronger to handle the troubles. Of course, we all want the virus to go away and the world to be safe and sound once again, despite the loss of life and lots of people falling ill. We want things to go back to as best as possible. However, it is our mental balance, calmness, resilience, strength of mind, presence of mind, and lots of courage, fortitude, which helps us to do so. So what I have been doing right now is public speaking. Right now, you heard me for about 5 minutes. I started off my vaktavya or my session with something which is a little preliminary overall thoughts. So whenever we speak in public, the first point is to be well structured. That means that we are not beating about the bush. We are not speaking from here and there. We start with a preliminary set of thoughts. Maybe we also start with a light-hearted comment at times. After lunch, it is always good to say to the audience, sorry, I have to speak to you after lunch. Please try to keep awake. You all had chole chawal and whatever, matar paneer and all, and maybe chicken also. So now you are back to the session. Now please keep awake as far as possible. Something like that makes people connect to you. So public speaking is about connecting to the audience. And the first tip is that you really try to connect to the audience in a manner that they start liking you. So if you're speaking to a class of students, or you're speaking to fellow teachers, or you're speaking to anyone else, it is always good to connect to the audience. And if you can connect to the audience, then they will start listening more carefully. Otherwise, if people are lost in their thoughts and you are sleeping, you are speaking, then what happens is that you are speaking to the air and they are not listening. And they are distracted, they are speaking, they are looking at their phones, they are busy with gossiping. So it is better for you to try to hold the attention. Even if it is a shorter speech, it doesn't matter, but it should be effective. What are the ideas that we can share at this point of time? First, I said preparation and good structure to your speech. Second is that we have to be really, really very committed to our content. That means content has to be great. We have to prepare our content well. We have to be prepared with notes on what we're going to say. We have to put the points in front of us. It is better not to have a written speech unless it is a formal speech. Then, of course, a written speech is okay, like annual report or some board, annual advisory board meeting, something like that is okay. But unless that is there, you can just prepare some points and you know the points well enough to say 3 or 4 sentences on each point. And the next point is to be yourself. When you are prepared, you are confident and your structure is good, don't try to become Shah Rukh Khan or any politician over there. Try to be yourself as a teacher, as a humble person, as best as you can. Don't try to change your personality on stage. Try to speak with the same personality, but try to speak with more power so that people can hear you, not only because of the mic, but also because your voice is booming enough, not very mild, not over loud also. I will share a light incident with you. I am a mentor to an IAS academy. And after resigning from the IAS, I've been speaking in public. I have been mentor to the academies. I have been advisor to Shoolini University. I've been visiting professor. And I've been part of a think tank called Suvichar, various things I'm doing. So in this academy, when I'm sitting in my office, then one day I heard a booming voice. And I thought that there is some, we are on the second floor over there in Panchkula in Sector 8. And I thought that there is some announcement going on, loudspeaker announcement. This is a few months ago. And I thought this loudspeaker announcement is quite loud, but not very clear. What is he saying? Then I realized that it is actually a new teacher in the class next door. And that new teacher has a voice which is more than a mic, loudspeaker voice, amazing volume, so loud that it can be heard in the whole academy. It's a large enough academy. So I was very surprised. Some people have over booming voices, some have very mild voices, but it has to be balanced. Balanced voices are those which can be heard, but which are not, which cannot be so loud that they irritate, and which are not so mild that they have to be ignored. The next point that I'll give you, and I'll recap these points at the end of the presentation, but let us go through a few more points. On public speaking, the content is important. As I said, prepare your notes, prepare your content, prepare your structure, but your delivery is really important. Delivery of the speech, delivery of what you're saying. The same speech delivered by two people, you will agree with me, will leave a different impact. And one person who speaks in an uninspiring manner will leave no impact. Another person speaks with such josh and enthusiasm and inspiration and motivation and energy in the same speech, he will leave an impact. So how can we do that? We can do that firstly by believing what we say. When you are saying something in a speech, you should believe. It should be from the heart. It should not be superfluous or peripheral or something which is just, outer thoughts. It should be deep-rooted within you mostly, especially if it is something like leadership, something like positive thinking, something like students' values, education, moral values, whatever. It should be deep-rooted within. And then you are speaking from a point of concentration and power. So your delivery will become much better. People will start listening to you more carefully, and they will take note of what you're saying more carefully. The next point is to make sure that you have some intonation. And intonation means that you are not speaking in a monotonous voice. You are emphasizing the words which are to be emphasized. You are speaking louder at the punchline. What is a punchline? A punchline is the last line of the passage or the topic or the speech, and or something which is in the middle, but which is powerful. A quote, maybe. Like, for example, I had come to Yamunanagar one day and I spoke at Sant Nishchal Singh School, and I had a TEDx talk over there. I believe your principal ma'am was present at that TEDx event. I was told today by Shikha ma'am that your principal ma'am, Ritu ma'am, was there, if I'm getting the names right. So then, in that speech, I was able to say something which people have liked. That is a punchline. That is a quote. And that was, the topic of the day was how marks are not everything in life. Students should not focus only on marks, but on all-round skills. So my quote was, life is not about marks. Life is about making a mark. Now, if I say it like that, with emphasis, with conviction, with a little bit of extra volume, then people will take it more seriously. It will come into their being. It will be more powerful, a thought, and you will find that they are more convinced by what you're saying. So I think these are thoughts on that. I believe we have to break for a video. So let us see if there is, the video is working, Atul, and you can probably otherwise share your thoughts and we can come back to the rest of it later.
I think there's a beauty of in being in India, Vivek. The fat Indian wedding always happens on time, and so is my technology. So it's working, which wasn't working till 10 minutes back. So thank you, everyone. I'd just like to add a few thoughts about public speaking. I'd just like to start my story, Vivek, first. So when I started, when I joined IIT Kanpur from Solon, I couldn't speak a word of English. I knew English, but I'd never spoken English at home for sure, probably a little bit here and there in school. I was lucky I got a little into public speaking. But when I started working with McKinsey and Company, where the standards were very, very high, I was actually told by my global CEO that I will not succeed in consulting because I didn't have the poise for public speaking. Of course, I had a bit of bravery. I was a little fearless and I think a little bit of a chip on my shoulders. So I requested Rajat saying, please give me time. And he was gracious enough to give me time. And I have to tell everyone that for the next 7 years, I would speak to a camera that I had bought for the next 7 years, every day in the morning between 6 and 7. I would speak to a camera every day and try to speak. So for someone who would stammer, I started speaking. I learned how to speak to the extent that before I left my last multinational job, I got a compliment by my global CEO saying, Atul, you're gifted, you've got a great style. And I went back and told him, Vivek, I had no style. And that's my story. So it's all doable, it's all possible if you practice, but you have to practice hard and you have to practice with passion. A few questions, a few things which I learned. The first is when you're doing a public speech, what do you do with the podium? Do you use the podium? You don't use the podium. And there are no rights and wrongs, but best practice is actually, surprise, surprise, not to use the podium. Great speakers do not use the podium. Great speakers actually move into the audience and speak. So Vivek's own uncle, Mr. Shiv Khera, I've heard him speak a few times, and we've been there together, Vivek. He actually walks into the crowd. He actually doesn't even stand on the stage. He stands down along with the audience and he speaks. And he's an amazing and powerful speaker. Of course, we can't go to that extent, but we can be away from the podium at least. The second question that comes to our mind is, what do you do with the hands? Oh God, I used to feel, I wish I had no hands. So some people put it in their pockets. Some people cross their chest. Some people just use their hands as swords to kill the audience, with different things to do. My advice to you is you can use your hands actually as a great body language to engage with the audience. And I'll give a small example over here. Let's assume you have to say, I have 3 thoughts for you, 1, 2, 3. You can use your hands very effectively by saying, I have 3 thoughts for you, the first one, the second one, the third one. So you're using your hands to engage the audience, not to kill them. Please don't do that. And you can actually very effectively use them. Second question is, what do you do with your feet? Some people just walk around, just don't know what to do with the feet. For speakers who are just starting, who are not Shiv Khera or Amitabh Bachchan, it's best to be at one place. It's best to be as stable as possible. And one of the best ways to be stable is to be on your toes. If you're on your toes, you'll be very stable actually, because if you're not, you'll fall down. So put your feet as wide as the shoulders, practice being on your toes and speaking. Try it out. I think the last tip I'd like to give, Vivek, is what do you do with your eyes? Now you want to engage your audience, but there's so many people around. So one tip for me is I identify 5 or 6 people in the audience when I speak. 6, 7 random people, 3 in the front, 3 in the middle, a couple of them in the back. And from time to time, I look at them. So the audience believes and feels as if we are speaking to the audience. A trick of speaking to the camera is that you never look into the camera, but you look a little side of the camera. So that's a small tip if you want to be an actor or you want to be a great online teacher. I think with that, I'm going to play a small video, Vivek, of a Shoolini girl by the name of Aman. And I'm going to tell the story why it was so important to build public speaking skills for Aman. But first for the video and then the story of Aman. Give me a second, let me play it out.
Sure.
So, Vivek, this is path-breaking work. This could change the way the world will drink water. So, you might have done some amazing piece of work. Ultimately, one has to go out and tell the world about it. It's only then that it becomes great. And this is the story of Aman, who's a girl from Chandigarh, was doing a PhD at Shoolini, a very shy girl, comes from a lesser privileged family. Did some absolutely stunning work on water that you saw with her teacher, Dr. Saurabh Kulshrestha. Now, the beauty of the story, Vivek, is that Aman has actually won something called the Young Water Fellow. The Young Water Fellow is an extremely prestigious award. It's a UN award, United Nations award. More than 100,000 researchers apply for it. And the award was $30,000 and a stay in United Nations Geneva for, I think, 3 or 4 months. Post that, Aman won a 25 lakh award from Tata Trust and Lockheed Corporation, US. Now, here was a very shy girl who couldn't speak. And with a lot of practice, we actually made her stand in front of a highly literate audience and win multiple awards. And if Aman could not win those awards, if she had not won those awards, this idea would have been an idea on paper. It's today being picked up. It's been picked up by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, where Aman presented, and many, many others. And who knows? Who knows? Aman might actually end up winning the Nobel Prize. Every top person that you know, every successful person that you know, in some form or the other, knows how to communicate, knows how to speak to audiences with poise. And that's why it's also important. So that's a few thoughts from my end. Vivek, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Atul. Wonderful thoughts and wonderful video. I think, Atul, you gave some great tips on public speaking. Very important, how to stand, how to look, where to keep your hands. And very remarkable story of 7 years of practice before you changed yourself into a remarkable speaker yourself. So this is the kind of hard work that is required by most people. And we have to work hard to excel at anything, including public speaking. Something at the beginning which I could have added is that most people are terrified of public speaking, and it is the second biggest fear of people after the fear of death is the fear of public speaking, stage fright. So try to get over this fear and try to be confident enough to, get over that fear. It will be nice if you ask questions at the end. I will be speaking for another 5 to 10 minutes, and then we will ask questions of you. I mean, you can ask questions of us. So now I'm going to give you the story of Einstein's driver, because I think not only will you like it, but I think the team also likes hearing this one. So let me tell you how a speaker was made overnight. You know Albert Einstein, and you know how famous he was as a scientist. Albert Einstein was on a lecture tour of the US, and he was speaking at one university town, then another university town, and he would speak on the theory of relativity. All the science teachers know, and everybody else also knows, Albert Einstein was famous for the theory of relativity. He did a lot of research work. And his E is equal to mc square became the stuff of legends, which is still the greatest equation the world has ever known. So Albert Einstein lectured at all these university towns. He would stay the night after the lecture. The driver was the same, the car was the same, Einstein was the same person, and the town was different every time. So after 24 such lectures, the 25th lecture was to be in a small university town, and the driver was driving Mr. Einstein to that town, and only two of them in the car. And suddenly the driver says to Einstein, he has not spoken much till today. Now he says, "Sir, I have heard your lecture 24 times sitting at the back of the hall. I think even I can deliver this lecture now." So Einstein is shocked, but he is absolutely thrilled. He says, "Great." He says, "I'll have a rest today. I will become the driver now. You become Einstein. You sit at the back, and we will pretend that you are Einstein. You go and deliver the lecture." They did not know how Einstein looks. This was the 1920s or whatever. not much photographs available, and nothing known about his face. So Einstein easily became the driver, and the driver became Einstein sitting at the back, the vice chancellor or the director, whoever received him, and the driver sahab went onto the stage. Einstein went and sat at the back of the hall, like the driver. And suddenly the driver started speaking on the theory of relativity fabulously, beautifully, superbly, no mistakes. And he spoke for more than an hour, flawless speech. And he says at the end, thank you very much for listening. And they all kind of clapped loudly. Einstein was clapping the loudest, and he stood up and started cheering. And everybody was delighted, but one professor had a question, just like teachers have questions. So one professor got up and asked a very complicated question. Now, this complicated question was that the teacher in the driver was to answer a very complicated question, and the driver knew that he did not know the answer. So what did he say? He says, Professor, that is a very simple question. My driver will answer it. So the driver sitting at the back was Einstein, and we know what Einstein could answer. So this is the kind of presence of mind that public speaker has to have. We learn presence of mind from the driver. We learn confidence from the driver. We learn the ability to remember facts and figures and whatever theory, how intelligent he was. We learn the risk-taking ability also. And we learn that on the stage, we have to be calm. So calmness in a speaker is a great quality. If the speaker is restless, keeps on repeating himself, keeps on looking at the clock, keeps on moving around too much, little bit of movement is good. Practiced movement is good. You can walk around, you can speak, you can, make gestures. I would very strongly urge you to watch a speech on YouTube, and that is by a Sri Lankan American gentleman. You can remember the name, I'll type it out later. Dhananjay Hetarachi. 7 minutes of bliss for all listeners. It is absolutely a brilliant speech, and he speaks so beautifully about everything in his life in 7 minutes, and leaves you wondering how anybody could deliver such a beautiful speech. So practice public speaking. The thing is to practice when you are not on the big stage. That means practice in class. You are in class almost every day. Once the lockdown is over, you will go back to class. Those who are scared that the lockdown will continue for a long time, please don't be scared. It will be over. You will be back in school and you will be teaching. So when you are back in class, then you can practice your oratory skills and pretend it's a lecture. Be very clear to the students as much as you can. Build up your lecture from the introduction to the flow and then the conclusion, and try to leave an impact. And we can learn from some great orators. Let's learn from Barack Obama. Barack Obama would look at the audience so charmingly, so smilingly, so cheerfully, that the audience would be wonderstruck. And he would look at all directions of the audience. So you can look left side of the audience, you can look at the right side of the audience, the front of the audience, the back of the audience. That gives everybody the impression that the speaker is looking at each of us. Obviously, in 100 people or 150 or more, you cannot meet eye to eye with everybody. But by looking in 4 different directions of the audience, you can make a convincing kind of demeanor. And if you have body language that is also going with that, for example, you're standing confidently. If you are behind a podium, Atul spoke about the fact that great speakers don't use the podium. Sometimes you're in a formal setup, you have to speak there, then only your hands are visible and your face and a little bit of your chest is visible. That's all you need. You make an impact with that. If you're walking around, then make an impact with your walk. Be of a personality which makes an impact on the audience. Be calmly confident. This calm confidence will give you brownie points with everybody. Everybody will be impressed with how you are conducting yourself. And then go ahead and deliver your lecture. Barack Obama was the epitome of great oratory. He even now, if you listen to him, even after he left his 8 years of presidentship, he speaks beautifully. Mr. Vajpayee, I always quote, Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee would speak brilliantly, but he best knew how to use the pause. So in a speech, you must pause at times. You cannot rattle off 100% at 100 miles an hour. You have to basically pause from time to time, let the audience understand what you're saying, and use the pause to collect your own thoughts. So the best thing Mr. Vajpayee used to do was to pause so long that people used to think that he is finished, he's sleeping, he's not going to speak more, but he would come out with the best part of his speech after the pause. So it creates a great impact. And then another thing that you must remember is that you must end well. The conclusion has to be full of power, full of energy, maybe a joke, maybe a humorous remark, maybe a witty remark, maybe a recap, maybe a powerful remark, something that, please retain the josh inside you and stay strong, stay motivated, stay calm, and see you again. So this is the way to conclude your speech, not very casually and okay, thank you very much. So something has to be reaching the audience till the very end. And the conclusion really matters. One more point I'll tell you before we take questions and before Atul shares a video about Shoolini. One more point is that we should also rehearse our stories and anecdotes. That means that for each topic, even in the classroom, on the stage, or the principal speech, you should have one or two stories in mind. I spoke about Einstein's driver. It can be anything. It can be somebody who was nervous and then not so nervous. It can be about other topics. But some anecdote from your life or story that you have heard from Panchtantra or modern life or wherever, bring it into your speech. It is very, very important. But do not digress too much also. Don't go to the left of the real path, but too long away, too far away by digressing on the real topic. The real topic is public speaking today. So we are talking only of public speaking. If it had been emotional intelligence, I would have spoken something else. Atul would have told you some other stories. If the topic had been leadership, it would have been something slightly different. If public speaking is the topic, then we stick to the topic. The river will be the same. The streams can be different, but the streams, you come back to the main river. So this is what I had for you in public speaking skills. And I'll try to recap with a slide at the end. But now I think Atul is ready with a video on Shoolini University. And Atul, please add some more tips on public speaking also.
Thank you, Vivek. You know, I'm smiling because when you said it's a river and you have to keep the topic, I remember of a very interesting incident, and I'm going to sort of reiterate it again. At the end of the day, the topic is the most important. So here I was in a vice chancellor's conference. I again repeat, a vice chancellor's conference where there were more than 150 vice chancellors across India. And they were listening to a very, very learned vice chancellor, fellow vice chancellor. And he was Vivek to speak about the use of technology in learning. So what happens, the speaker gets up, starts speaking. And for 5 minutes, we don't know what's happening because he's not talking about technology. He starts talking about biology. He starts talking about making pharmaceutical medicines because he was the vice chancellor of a pharmaceutical university, pharma university. After 10 minutes, some vice chancellors in the audience put their hand up and say, "Sir, you're not following the topic given to you." And this gentleman doesn't look left, right, anywhere. He continues speaking, continues speaking. There is utter chaos in the audience. People are shouting. And this gentleman, who's supposedly a top 10 vice chancellor academician in our country, does not stop. He completes his 30-minute speech, 100 PowerPoints. So everyone is dead through PowerPoint. And this is not just any ordinary person, but a very, very senior academician. I think the message I wanted to give over here is that you have to stick, however good you are, however well you speak, you have to stick to the topic that's given to you. I think coming back to all of us, Vivek spoke about practicing. Vivek spoke about having certain skills. I just wanted to reiterate two things. One is it's an amazing opportunity we have, Vivek, right now to be actors, to actually speak to the camera because that's what we're doing every day. We are running a bunch of webinars, we are doing a bunch of classes online. What an amazing opportunity. Having said that, I
Absolutely.
also think all of you as teachers are the Corona warriors. You have really stepped up to the situation. You've really made sure that not a single day of learning is lost. So you're not just, Corona warriors, you're not just teachers, you're also great actors now. And all of you have the same passion, which I have, which is to make young Indians super successful. That's my belief. That's the belief of Shoolini, Vivek. And I know that's your belief too, that if India has to
Yes.
succeed, the young India has to succeed. With that, I'm going to show a small video that resonates this thought, and then we'll go into Q&A. And of course, I think you have to show something, Vivek.
Yeah, I'll show it later. Yeah.
Throughout history, the young have always been the ones to shape the future. And they continue to do so today. You are the country's biggest asset, our best bet to conquer the future. So what are you waiting for? Your time to dream is now. Dream of the research that can change the world. Dream of a high-flying corporate career. Dream of higher studies in the world's best universities. Dream of developing cutting-edge technology of the future. Dream of your own global startup. At Shoolini University, we empower you and enable you to chase your dreams and change the world. Shoolini University. Think learning, think success.
So, Vivek, every time I watch this video, I get goosebumps. And the reason is because these young students make me so proud. They just do unbelievable things. I was just looking at some stats which were released yesterday. So, Shoolini students have filed the highest number of patents of any institution in India. We are the highest patent filer in India today, way higher than the mighty IITs. Some of the research which has been done by these students is way ahead of even the best in the world. And these are ordinary students. These are not guys who got 99.9% marks. And I think my belief that there is an Einstein sitting in everyone, I just believe it. And I'm sure so do you. Sorry for digressing from the topic. Over to you, Vivek. We are on public speaking. And otherwise, you're going to accuse me of changing the topic.
Thank you, Atul. Very witty and very nice. In fact, it is really inspiring to see how young people can achieve their aims and beyond their imagination at times. And Shoolini's research focus is really tremendous. I would urge all the teachers to make a plan to visit Shoolini. Of course, Atul will also mention that at the end. That would be a great idea. So just to recap a few of the points, I'm just sharing a little bit of a PPT which is here and which you can just see. Yeah. These will give you an idea, a little bit of idea on how this what to do when you're nervous. I saw a couple of questions already about nervousness, that I'm very nervous before coming on stage. So, deep breathing is something that really helps overcoming nervousness in any point of life. Even when you are to speak on stage, or you are going to meet your prospective in-laws, whatever it is, young people, it is something that helps you in combating nervousness in any situation. I have been a cricketer, and I know that batting.
Vivek, Vivek, you're muted for some reason. Vivek, you're on mute.
Little bit of time to be absolutely silent in the morning. That means that meditation, morning and evening, will also make us very, very calm. And even on stage, we will be calm. This will help us anyway in combating the problems of life. So absolute silence before the speech also. No need to be chatting away before your speech. Be calm and collected, and it's an important speech, or even if not important, a few minutes of absolute silence and deep breathing before the speech. And then, as I said, Dale Carnegie said, be prepared. You can only be confident if you are well prepared. So you should have prepared your content. You should know your content. It should come from your heart. It should be a part of you. Then you will do very well. And speak naturally. That means like Friends, the TV show at Central Park, every evening they will get together and speak naturally to each other. So it's something that you can also do. And the last point I'd like to share is, what will go wrong on the stage? I mean, you may fumble, you may make some mistake, the mic might stop working, or somebody will start shouting. What can go wrong worse than that? It's not the end of the world. Don't worry. You are human, and you will go through ups and downs in life or on the stage. So just be collected and calm in your mind. And that will enable you to come back with a good rest of the speech, even after a break or some disturbance. And I have often faced this in my own career. In government, you would be on stage, something happened, beech mein mantri ji aa gaye, chale gaye, whatever it is, you continue with your speech. So try and be cool and calm, and that's the best tip. I think we have lots of questions, so I should end here. It's been wonderful speaking to you, and please continue with the questions. Should we, Atul?
Absolutely. I think before we get there, I just like to just mention one thing, Vivek, if you allow me.
Sure.
I think you'll have to stop sharing a screen if you can do that. Yeah. So I'll just continue as you sort of close the screen, Vivek. So you spoke about practice, and I think this will be related to many of the questions which our audience has today. So I'll answer this by saying that, look, all of you are doing public speaking every day. At the end of the day, you're teachers. So do try one small trick every day. Experiment in your classes. You have this amazing opportunity. You've got a risk-free stage. If you go wrong, there could be some students who laugh, but typically they won't even figure out if you've made some changes in the way you teach. So use your stage every day to improve yourself. And that comes back to theater. I would also say, if you haven't before, join a theater group, learn how to act. Great teachers are also great actors. Your stage on a theater is nothing but a stage when you do a public speaking exercise. So think about this. And Vivek, let's get into the Q&A.
Yeah, great point. So Anita ma'am is asking, how can we ignore negative comments? How can we make ourselves positive all the time? So negative comments when you are speaking in public may happen. It's not necessary, but there may be some times when people are making comments. But normally that is a very indisciplined audience. What you can do is to ignore them for a while. And if they continue and it is getting out of hand, then stop your speech, stop your whatever you're saying, and you can say it. You can say that kindly maintain silence only, then I'll continue. I mean, comments, if they're keeping on coming, then you cannot continue your speech and everybody gets disturbed. So you can pause, and then everybody has that. So even in a class, when the teacher suddenly stops speaking, every child realizes something is wrong, and you glare at them a little bit, and then they stop speaking. That's a great method to avoid negative comments. But making ourselves positive all the time is a bigger issue. It's about thinking about the bigger picture of life, and about the fact that life is full of ups and downs, and why can't we be as positive as every human being can? And why should I be the one who is more scared than my friends or relatives? You always have that one uncle or one cousin who is always cheerful. So why can't you be like that? Try and emulate them. Then we have, if our audience is comfortable in Hindi, we are not sure whether they understand English. What is more intelligent, speak in Hindi or English, or translate side by side? See, if you are sure that they understand English, then you can speak in English. Like I was aware of this audience when I speak to teachers, Atul and I have discussed, so we speak only in English. If we feel that there is some benefit to be had by translating in Hindi, because there is a section of the audience which doesn't understand, then it is always good to translate also. Why not? And if you feel that the audience is Hindi speaking, like for example, I'll tell you, Chandigarh has a Bapudham colony where there are cases of coronavirus, and they are all Hindi speaking. So the administration, somebody called me up to make a motivational audio, kind of 4-minute audio, which I sent. Obviously, it's in Hindi. I can't use English words in that. So I have to see my audience and speak in a language that I'm comfortable with as far as possible.
I would say there's a doubt, Vivek. Asking the audience might not be a bad idea.
Not a bad idea. Should I speak in? Absolutely. Whether I should speak in English or Hindi. And Pooja is saying, how can I overcome my stage fear? So as I said, deep breathing before the speech, lots of practice. When you have practiced 3-4 times, then obviously the 5th time you will be absolutely good. And if you're wary of the senior people sitting there, try and just try not to look at them, but try and tell yourself that what can go wrong? What is the worst thing that can happen to me? I'll do my best. In any situation, you must do that. And gradually you'll overcome stage fear. It won't go in one day. Maybe by next year. Atul told you how much he practiced for 7 years before he became a very good speaker.
Atul, I'd also like to, yeah, absolutely. So Pooja, my request to you would be a little bit of stage fear is good actually. So, people who are not prepared or who are overconfident will not have stage fear. So let the stage fear be there. But if you have to overcome extreme fear, I would say practice a speech in front of an audience or a mock audience before going to the real audience. Some people use friends. Some people will just speak in an empty classroom. And nowadays you can speak to a camera. There are tools in which you can record your speech and they'll give you a score. So you can even use AI to perfect your speech. So it's up to you.
Absolutely. And there is a code number which is asking a question. Perhaps you can type your name in the bottom in the comment section. You are asking, what can we do to act strong and confident on stage? And again, you have asked, I shiver in the beginning and later on I develop courage slowly. So for you, I can say that it is, as Atul said, a little bit of nervousness is okay. But if you are over nervous, shivering, then your legs are trembling, I mean, you are obviously not in a good position to deliver a speech. And supposing you have only 5 minutes or 10 minutes, then you can't take so much time to warm up. So basically, speak to a smaller audience before your speech. Get over some of the inhibitions over there. Take a deep breath, have a sip of water, and try and go there with, let's say, the first 6 sentences, you know what you're going to say, exactly word to word. Then by that time, your nervousness should reduce. But over the years, it will improve actually. Manish Mehta is asking, should we keep our instinctive speaking skills alive? It usually happens to me every time I am in public speaking situations. We can change our script. Yeah, it's okay. Especially when you're speaking to the youth or youngsters, it's okay to change from the script. You can motivate them by a thought that came to you or something that you prepared suddenly. You can inspire them the way you are. Yes, so it is easy to do that. But if it is a formal occasion where you have to stick to the, the decorum, then better not become too instinctive at that time. It's better to stick to the rules.
I'd just like to add over here, Vivek.
Yeah, sure.
Is there an echo coming when I'm speaking, or is it okay?
No, it's okay.
Okay, lovely. So I would say don't change your style. We all have a different style. Some people speak a little more formally, some people use humor, some people are very conversational in their speech. I'll give some examples over here. Arvind Kejriwal, he can hold his audience, but he's very conversational. He doesn't speak like, a leader. Mr. Modi speaks like a statesman. Very different styles, but both are very effective. So it's only you who knows your style. Again, you have to practice, and I'll give a small anecdote, Vivek, over here. I once happened to spend an evening with the tabla master. What's his name? I forget. That's right. And I was asking him, how do you do the Jugalbandi with Pandit Ravi Shankar? I said, you must be so talented, he asked him. And he said, for one 1 hour session, both of us practice for at least 20 hours. Jugalbandi happens with hell lot of practice. I'm told that Mr. Modi practices his speech 3 times before he delivers it. Every time. And that's the difference why he's the Prime Minister and not someone with a surname G. Jokes apart, I think practice and your own style are very, very important.
And also, the person who was asking was probably Gurcharan. Okay. Anyway, Veenu ma'am is asking, how do I overcome a tendency to say and Now, this is very interesting. When you have a style,
you just said Vivek.
So that's what I'm saying. It is okay to have that style. That's what I was going to say. It is a part of your normal speech. How can you give it up when you have come into a certain age now? When you have, what is worse is probably to have a takia kalam which is irritating, which could be, some people say, some things like, welcome ji, welcome, or something like, I can't think now, Atul, maybe some takia kalam, like, they'll say, therefore. So something which is too repetitive in language can be a little irritating, but I think saying or or something is a natural figure of speech.
You could possibly, Vivek, you could possibly also record yourself and listen to your speech and be conscious about it. I used to say a lot of ers and ums. I still do. I try to avoid them. Again, it comes with practice, and you will know if you're doing it too much by listening to your videos. I would say listening to your own video really helps.
And it's easy to record your videos nowadays. You can just see them and show them maybe to your children, get their advice, your spouse. Tim C. Ma'am is asking, it's a very unique name. My question is, which is more important, content or delivery? So in an earlier session, I was of the view, I said that 51% content and 49% delivery, but it is actually 50-50. It's very important to have content as well as delivery, because great content without great delivery won't really work. And great delivery with nothing to say is not really. So content is really, really important as well. Okay, then we have, how can we overcome stage fear? I think we answered that. We already answered that. What is more important, our content or delivery? That I also answered, Rajni ma'am and Pooja ma'am. Timsi ma'am also. Gurcharan ji is saying, sometimes I go very deep into the topic, which takes much time to wind up the topic. Now, that's a very important question. You have to apportion enough time for each part of your talk. So the opening is important, the structure, 1, 2, 3, 4 points, and then your closing is also important. So it is really, really important to stop speaking when required. And I'll come up with that quote, which I love, which is, always make sure you have finished speaking before your audience has finished listening. Because your audience is going to be, after a while, ye to aise hi bol rahe hain and all. So please try to finish on time. Even if you finish 2 minutes before time, it's okay. But don't go overboard. Okay, Atul.
I think there's a question from Payal, and I'd like to answer this, Payal.
Yeah.
Payal, ma'am, I would strongly encourage you to join theatre. So learn how to throw your voice. And there's nothing better than theatre in terms of learning this. Singers will know how to do it, or just start performing on stage. Absolutely, yes, you need to make your voice bold and you need to throw it. So again, it comes with practice. Sorry, we're using the word practice, practice, practice again and again, but I think that's really how you become a great speaker. So we need to go into Q&A, Vivek, and we've got 3 to 5 minutes left. So we'll have to go a little quick. We've got 7 questions on the Q&A side.
Yeah, why don't you start? I'm just trying to see that. Okay.
So I think there's a first, Vinu ma'am is asking, we've already answered that. Anita ma'am is asking, suggest a short and effective. Wow. So
yeah,
I think,
obviously, go ahead.
Yeah, so
go ahead.
Anecdote, some people use shairi, some people use poetry, or some people just summarize what they're going to talk about. It'll all depend upon the seriousness of the speech. But do practice, do write down your introduction. I actually always write my introduction down. I also write the end down, even if I'm speaking extempore in the middle. But what about you? How do you make your speech great at the start?
Yeah, so I think you have to, yes, practice or rehearse or at least be sure of what you're going to say in the beginning. Once you have your beginning okay, then your flow will come when you know the topic. But in the beginning, it's also sometimes very formal. So you have to name, like you'll say, okay, Professor Atul Khosla, Mr. Kamal Kant, Mrs. Soma, so-and-so. So that's how you start. And then if it is an introductory remarks, then let them be absolutely perfect. That means you have practiced them, prepared them. And then, as Atul also mentioned, you can have a cheerful remark also. So today is a Sunday. We've called all of you here. I mean, it's very, very, or whatever, depends on the day. So these kind of things also help. Sometimes I lose my words. Gurcharanji is saying, I do not find the exact words to deliver. I feel nervous at that time. Yeah, that can happen. And if you lose your words, then there's no harm in breaking into Hindi or Punjabi. Normally, in your mother tongue, you won't lose your words. There is no harm at all. Just find that word. Because at that time, if you start searching in your mind for an English word which fits, you may not be able to find it. And because you are nervous, your brain is not working properly. So it's better to break into that Hindi Punjabi. But otherwise, work on your vocabulary offline and try to find expressions which are good for you.
I think let's take the last one where Priyanka ma'am is asking, what do you do when children are not in the mood to hear?
Sometimes children are not in a mood to hear. Children are going to be difficult. It is good to make friends with them before the class or make them like you so much that they really love listening to you, have anecdotes and stories for them. I think these are the things, because children you cannot win over. Even a prime minister comes to visit and the child doesn't want to talk to him, he will not talk to him or not listen to him. So it's good to win their hearts somehow. And one last one I'll take quickly is the one which is how can I can't see it now.
This is Q&A, Vivek.
Oh yeah, the audience should not get bored, and so the audience not getting bored, again, the anecdotes, quotes, and good instances, and not speaking over time. That's simple, right? I think we're done.
I think a couple more, and I'll pick them up.
Sure.
So Tim's name is asking, should we use slangs? Can we use slangs in public speaking? So Timsi ma'am, it depends on your audience. You know, if it's a young audience and you're speaking to teenagers, you can, but you'll have to figure out, I think it's a situation by situation thing. I use a lot of slang sometimes with teenagers, you know, then they really open up and they start feeling you're one of them. Pooja ma'am is asking, again, confidence or content, we've answered that. 50-50. Deepa ma'am is saying, when public speaking, what facial expression or body language helps? smile is the best way to
smile more.
Absolutely. And your eyes
have to smile.
Your audience. Don't hair like me. I'm sorry. I haven't got a haircut for a very long time. So apologies for that. How do I overcome a tendency of saying and I think we captured that. We said it's not that bad saying and unless you're doing it too much. So record your speech, practice it again and again. Try to keep the ums and ahs out, but if they are used in moderation, it's quite okay.
I think they repeated the question. We've already covered them.
That's right. I think we're also running short of time, Vivek. And before we close, I have to do two things with you. One is your last 1 minute last thoughts for the audience.
The last thoughts are, it depends on how you are when you go on stage. Not what you say, but how you are. So be calm and confident as a personality off the stage. When you go on stage, the same personality will be speaking. So it will really reflect. And one last thought for these current times, be confident and calm. Don't worry about Corona and other things. Make your children and your students also calm and confident. Give them positive thoughts and stay connected with the real world and with the virtual world. Thank you.
I'm very tempted to do a rapid fire on you. Am I allowed?
Sure, why not? I don't know whether they have time. Maybe 3 questions.
5, very quickly. Your favorite color?
Favorite color is red, even today.
Even today? Okay, that's lovely. Your favorite cuisine?
Favorite cuisine is idli sambar.
Your most embarrassing moment in public speaking?
Public speaking, most embarrassing when I forgot the topic and started talking on something else. And then I realized in time before unlike your vice chancellor, I made amends.
The most exciting speech you ever given, or the speech that you remember the most?
I think my book launches, I've had 3 book launches and memorable speeches for me, the 3 of them.
Your favorite university campus?
Shoolini is my favorite, no doubt. This is not a practiced promotional exercise. Atul always asks me, and I tell you, it is such a beautiful campus to visit. You must visit. And you can even see online the website, shooliniuniversity.com. Beautiful, beautiful place.
That is a cheeky one for me. Thank you for saying Shoolini. Well, thank you, everyone. What a wonderful audience. I've loved every moment of this. I have to invite you guys over to Shoolini, all of you. Get your students along, get yourself along whenever it opens. Till then, be safe. We would love to come over and speak to you and the students once again Corona is over. Vivek and I do a lot of workshops together. I hope you will invite us over. Till then, once again, thank you. Be safe and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you once again, Vivek. What a wonderful speaker you are. And everyone in the audience, I hope you know that Vivek does not even shuffle his head anywhere left or right when he speaks. That's a true and a great speaker. Thank you, Vivek.
Thank you, Atul. Thank you very much. Thank you. I enjoyed the session. All of you, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you.